Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 56.
56. Ooh.
I always feel a little awkward when we start this episode, or any episode.
Why is that?
Because it's like, you got to have that dead silence right before we record. Like, I'm waiting for some intro music, and I know we're not going to go down that road, but it's just kind of awkward, like dead silence to like, hey, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah. But they heard the intro music, and that's what matters.
And Mike, validates everything. Everything that we do every single time.
Yeah.
Hey, we are almost to eBay Open, and we're in the middle of summer, and summer slowdown. I don't know. How's summer slowdown dealing with you?
It hasn't been too bad. You know, I feel like it's been consistent. Like, there hasn't been a drop in my sales. There's definitely hasn't been a spike, but
it's consistent.
I'll take that. Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. So there's various ways to approach this, right? So, and I have nothing against anybody, but I would say I struggle sometimes when people are like, yeah, what's summer slowdown, right? And like, I get it. Like, we want to show numbers, but then I do feel bad, like, because I've been in those moments where you see other people, and now I get it. You own your own thing, but it's just hard, and things have been really good for me. It's not like it's been bad. It's just one of those things like, oh, like, if you're in that spot where you're struggling, it hurts to see, like, or, not that you get like, it's just one of those where like, what's wrong with me kind of deal. I've been in that place. So I want to be careful. I don't want to just go like, hey, yeah, what's summer slowdown? But I want to say, like, things have been good. It's kind of shocking to me, the fact that I think eBay's send offer button was a change. It was a game changer.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. We get sales all the time. Like, sometimes I'll text my wife after we get a sale. We're both logged into the same eBay account, right? So
that's good.
Well, yeah, but it's
Mike's secret eBay store.
I
somewhere?
know she gets the messages like the same time I do. Sometimes a little bit before I do. But as soon as something big sells, like if she's at work, something, I'll text her and I'll be like, I can't believe we just sold, right? And
that's awesome.
A lot of times she says, yeah, I just sent an offer on that today. And I'm like, oh, well, there we go. Like, of course it's sold. Like, you sent the offer on it. So it's amazing how many times, the sales come from those send offers. And I just wonder, like, what would this summer look like without that? Well, I mean, what would any day look like?
Well, and that's the thing I was talking about. Remember, I had questioned, like, okay, this good till get cancel change, right? Because I was a 30-day guy. And I was really worried about how things were going to change. And so I definitely believe promoted listings and the send offer has kind of stifled things from getting stale. Now, I will say one thing. Well, I want to ask you this. So would you say your sales convert when you do a send offer? So that offer you send, people are accepting? Is that how you're making your sales?
Yeah, I'd say every day that we send, like, let's say we send 8 or 9 offers out in the day, I'd say 2 or 3 of those sell. And then we often get comments back, right? Like, I oftentimes get a customer respond back and say, that's a little too much. Would you be willing to do this? Right. So, even like, not even as offers, like a lot of times they're not even sending offers back. They just send messages, which has been kind of weird. So I don't know if it's something, the way they get it, if they can't like send a counter offer, I'm not sure, but
I think they can because I've gotten counter offers off my offers.
Maybe because they get it. I don't know. Maybe because it comes to them separately or differently. I don't know, but I've gotten more messages from offers of customers saying, hey, would you be willing to do this? Would you be willing? And it's just in a message form. So it's been interesting. But yeah, I'd say pretty much any time we send offers on at least 10 items, a few of them are going to sell, right? So it's not like every single item that we send an offer on sells, but quite a few of them do.
That's interesting. So my model's totally different. I will sell stuff. I'll maybe give like a 5% discount on stuff. You're probably doing a little bit more than 5%. So let's say it's a shirt that's $34.99. Are you sending in a $29.99 or are you doing like $24.99 or $19.99?
Yeah, I would say typically like a $5 off, and I know that the percentage wise changes depending on the cost of the item, but yeah, a lot of times it's $5 off of something like that. If it's $35 or $30, we might send. So it's a significant discount.
Okay,
5% on $30 isn't that much, but
So yeah, and you're getting you're having buyers accept your offers. What I'm finding is most buyers don't accept my offers, but those items sell to somebody else for full price, or I get sales on other stuff. And I don't know if it's, I think it's eBay's algorithm, which it's all a mystery. I think even to eBay may be a mystery, right? Because the algorithm functions on its own, is that it likes seeing activity. Because it's interesting. Now, I will say there's days I've sent like tons of offers and, it's been quiet. I've had a couple quiet days where it's been one sale and then the next day it's like $1,000 in sales and the next day it's like $20. Like it's kind of weird how it ebbs and flows. But I don't know. I'm happy. It's kind of addicting to send offers. Yeah. I don't think I go a day without sending offers.
No, it's nice. And especially because it's been something we've wanted for so long. And so now having it, it's, to not use it every single day would be a shame.
Like eBay
right?
One day is like, we're not doing this anymore.
You guys are ungrateful. You are not sending enough offers. We're taking it away from you.
I think the algorithm would take care of that. I don't think they have to say anything. So, all right. So I know I saw last update, you had mentioned about you're looking forward to our sourcing together. So you want to share? I know we shared on our IG story, but there's more to the story. So tell us a little, how did that go?
It wasn't great.
It was not great at all.
No, I mean,
it was kind of sad.
It was sad, but I would say, to be honest, that's the typical, I don't want to say typical, but I'd say that's probably 50% of the time when I go to thrift stores or more is leaving with a few items and maybe like $20 or $30 in profit. So I go to a store and it's like, I got a couple of items. I bought it for $6. I'm going to sell for 35. I'm going to make $20 on this. And it's easy, I feel like, to look at and say like, okay, this was sad because it wasn't the big hauls. It's always nice when you could walk in and say like, I just walked out with $400 or $500 worth of profit. But the reality is, for me at least, that doesn't happen all the time. So when it does happen, it's like a bonus, it's a treat. And then I just look at the days where it's like, all right, well, I just got a few things, as if I'm consistently doing this every single day, constantly going to these thrift stores, getting $30 here, $30 here, it adds up over time.
So when do you think's the last time you walked out of a thrift store with like a major haul?
It was probably like a month ago.
Okay.
It's been a while. Yeah.
I know. For me, it's been, I want to say 3 months, maybe. And I think that was one. I think that's just something because I decided with Funky Cold Medinas, I said to go thrifting with him and we just picked a store and it just worked out. I mean, it was good for Instagram, right? The highlight reel. But I would say since that point in time, every other time I've gone, it's been so, except for today on the way to the podcast, I did pick up, a nice haul of Castelli. Castelli's like cycling wear shirts. They're $4.99 a piece, new with tags, and picked up about 19 of them, and they should each go for about $20 to $30. So and I had the teacher discount, so it wasn't too bad. But that's what I'm finding, and I wanted to address this a little bit. I kind of asked you that because I think we're at a place. This is just me, that thrift stores should be like your secondary, unless you're going to the bins. I know you see those bin things on Instagram?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's like phenomenal what people find at the bins, but it's work.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't been to the bins. You did not portray it in a light that makes me want to go to the bins anytime soon.
And you know what? I was one and done. We should go back. Me and you should go back.
Do you think it's like location specific? Do you think like bins in San Diego are worse than bins in other places?
I do think it's location specific. I do know some resellers from San Diego that have gone and they get some scores, and it's all about knowing people and networking there too, But, I look at people, we have a lot of people in the Pacific Northwest and they seem to have a great time at the bins. There's a lot of people in the Midwest that go to the bins and they have, there's people in LA that go to the bins and they find stuff. I don't know. I think our bins here is just
okay. So if that's like your third option, what's option 1 and 2?
Well, we always, and I'm not saying you can make a living off of this. I'm saying you can find a lot of good stuff. Number 1 is garage sales and bulk buys. And what I mean by that is, well, garage sales is easy, but bulk buy is, and we've talked about this so many times, business cards, connecting with people and networking, maybe putting ads on OfferUp and Let Go and Craigslist, whatever it is you can to make those connections. Because right now, I've gone maybe 6 to 8. I can maybe 10. Let's say 10 to exaggerate. 10 thrift stores in the last 2 months, and I still have more inventory than I know what to do with from bulk buys and garage sales. Like I don't have like a shortage of items to list. You know what I'm saying? And the second one is I think there has to be some kind of wholesale game in there. And this is what I'm talking about scaling. I'm talking about if you go full time and you want to scale, I think there has to be, as far as my experience, and even right now, and obviously, you know, sharing wholesale resources isn't wise, right? Maybe if we had like 2 listeners in the podcast and like 2 followers, but for me, there has to be a consistent flow of goods, right? And so I think wholesale is a place. I would say if you have outlets, that's a good legit place. I still think, you know, the normal discount stores that you see on Instagram all the time are still a good place. But my experience, at least in San Diego right now, is if I was trying to go full time, let's say 2 years ago, under these conditions right now, I don't know if I'd make it.
Really?
I'm serious. I'm really, really serious. I look at the sales, the huge days that I had this past week. Maybe 10% of those items were from thrift stores. Maybe. The rest, I mean, as far as the big scores, like the major, purchases came from bulk buys, garage sales, wholesale, and so on.
And I've got to believe, and maybe this is, I'm typically like ultra pessimistic. Like I am not Mr. Optimistic.
No, he smiles.
I mean, I smile, but like I think, some people look at it as a weakness. I look at it as a strength, if not taken to the extreme.
Yeah.
Is I'm always looking at like, okay, what are the obstacles that we're going to face? How can we overcome them? But that being said, I'm somewhat optimistic that thrift stores are going to turn around. Like,
yeah,
I feel like they have to eventually. So I think from that, we got to take that your model's going to have to change. Like what you're doing now, if it's not working, it's probably because you're trying to do what you were doing a few years ago and things have just changed. But that also means that you can't just abandon it, right? You can't say like, okay, I'm never walking into a thrift store again. I'm not going to, because
we still go.
Yeah.
We still go.
And that shift is going to be slow, right? I feel like it's going to be slow, especially if a lot of the resellers in your area are abandoning thrift stores, right? That's less competition for you. So even if prices are high, if people aren't coming in and swooping up all of the gold, right?
Yeah, but
it's there for you.
It's not that the prices are high, it's that the selection is poor.
I mean, part of that could just be competition.
It could be. And I know in San Diego, we're very, like, super heavy, I think, competition-wise. But let me be clear about this one thing, though. If you're trying to do part-time, I think thrift stores is totally doable. Totally doable. Like, I have no question, like, could you make a few hundred? Maybe you could make a couple thousand a month. If you want to go full-time and be able to pay the bills and build capital, I think you have to find ways outside of thrift stores to source. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's good. And I think too, I mean, you kind of nailed it. Like obviously wholesale is the dream, but even going to outlets and buying in bulk, right? And just doing that kind of stuff, your profit margins might be less, but if you're looking at scaling and you're like, okay, I'm only going to make $10 per shirt that I'm selling, but I can buy 40 of the exact same shirt in different sizes and it's only 3 listings and super simple to, if you're
and the sell-through rate's good.
Yeah. So if you can do something like that, I think that's scalable too. And that's kind of like you've even mentioned, like sometimes it's worth paying up if you can go somewhere and know you're going to fill your car up, right? Because if you're just relying on thrift stores, well, chances of you filling your car up every time.
At least right now, at least that's what we sense here in San Diego. You may be in another part of the country and it's
location specific.
You're so welcome. And again, we haven't even mentioned, if you do Amazon and if you do Posh, I mean, Amazon is still a beast for me. Prime Day is coming. We'll talk about that a little bit. So Amazon helps supplement maybe those weaknesses in the thrift stores for me. So, all right. So here, I did want to share something though. So we made it look really bad, but there was a really good connection. Remember, I shared this a little bit. Remember when we went to the thrift stores?
Oh, right. Yeah. All right. The guy you talked to there.
I feel like I'm talking too much. Am I talking too much?
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. I did have somebody come up to us, a former coworker of ours, go, Orlando, you talk a lot on the podcast.
Really?
And I'm like, well, it is a podcast. That's okay with me. Okay. So
it's better than dead silence. Maybe what they were really saying is, we'd love to hear Mike talk more.
That's probably it.
That's
which is
what
the same thing.
That. Yeah, it's the same thing. It just said, it's actually said in a kind of a cruel way towards you, right?
Yeah,
like it would have been a little nicer if they'd have said, I'd like to hear Mike talk more.
Yeah, but it's all good. I do talk a lot.
You talk too much.
I do. I'm that kind of guy. All right. So do you remember when we walked in the store? You actually got a head start on me. Do you remember why?
Yeah, you started talking to somebody that you knew, right?
Yeah, it was okay. So,
and I took that opportunity. I saw him.
He did take that opportunity.
I'm like, boop. I'm checking all the electronics, gonna check some shoes out. Yep. Kept glancing over. I'm like, all right, still got some time.
But I still scored. So this is what happened. So we're at the store that shall not be named. Mike, and here's the interesting thing. So Mike and I have both been in education, right? Because we run into people, you know, from all kinds of places, right? And we actually ran into a former teacher and a student, and you know, so we can't avoid it. And it does slow you down, but it's all good to talk to people. Well, while Mike's looking, this is somebody that works, and I'm not going to mention the store or the chain or any of that because, you know, I want to protect their identity. But here's the crazy thing. I always talk about networking. And when I mean networking, I'm not saying you walk into a store and you're like, here's my card, give me a call. It's kind of like, just talk to people. Like, you know, be friendly. Like, you know, shoot the breeze with people. Like, people like to know that you care about them and you're thinking about them and so on. And there is this guy that I've known, I would say, for 5 years. And now one of the reasons he knows me is because my son, when he was younger, he just liked to be loud in the stores. And so everybody always knew when I'd be in a thrift store because they're like, oh, there's Orlando. And hey, where's your son? Like, I'd always get, like, when things were too quiet and I'm sourcing, they always get this question. So I'm talking to him, or like, hey, he's like, hey, you haven't been around in a while, haven't seen you. I'm like, oh, I'll stop by, you know, it's good seeing you, blah, blah, blah. Well, next day, I go to that store and that person's there. He's like, hey, you're here. I'm like, oh, yeah. Totally forgot that this was this. I didn't remember this is the store that you're at. And so here's where it gets interesting. I didn't even like try to work anything out. There were some items that were there. There was like some Lego sets, and they were super like overpriced. And then there was like all these like cosmetics, and I'm not a big cosmetics, but they're you know, this certain brand that's pretty popular these days. I'm doing everything I can not to mention anything, but you know, I go to this individual. I'm like, hey, you know, this is kind of crazy. Like, these prices, like, where did you guys get your price? And, you know, I have a good enough relationship. I can say, like, oh, don't worry about it. What do you want for it? Like, what are you willing to pay? And I'm like, and usually I always say, don't give the first number. But in this case, like, I just told him, I said, hey, if I give you what I want, like, it's going to be super cheap. But I didn't go super cheap. I kind of went middle of the road.
So you don't want to burn that bridge.
You don't want to, and you don't want to end the negotiation. Yeah. So the item was $60. So I said, you know, I'd be comfortable with 15 because then I showed him on my phone the comps. I go, these are selling for like 60 to 100. I do 15. He goes, can you pay 20? I'm like, okay. He goes, all right. And then another item, how much? Another item, how much? Bulk buy of these cosmetics, how much? And I scored.
Nice. I'm also like 99% sure that you told this story last week.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I'm pretty sure.
We were talking off air.
I don't know. I don't think so. We were talking about building connections.
Oh my.
So, but that's good. Like, it was a good story. So I'm glad to hear it again.
I distinctly, I never, no. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That would be super embarrassing. So let us know in the comments below. Did Orlando share this story before?
Yeah. There we go.
Anyways, what I wanted to share is, and maybe I did share this last time. Oh, I did, because we were talking about getting ready for Q4 and Q3, and I talked about connections. Okay. Well, anyways, I'm excited because I just went through that inventory and I looked at all the stuff and I'm like, I may make $1,000 off a $100 purchase.
Wow. No,
so it was a hustle of the week. So my apologies if I did share that story, which now I'm like 98% sure.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You know, it was a nice story, kind of warm and fuzzy, and you know, and you mentioned bringing you know, your kids with you thrift stores, and let me tell you, bringing my son is always interesting, especially as he gets a little older, because he's like the cutest little kid, right? But he's also could be a turkey sometimes, and as he's getting older and like can reach a little further, because it was easy when he was just in a car seat and like would sleep, you know, and that's all he did.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Now it's like we go down an aisle and I can't do clothes when I've got him, because every single item that he can pull.
Yeah.
So it's like every shirt's coming off, every pair of jeans is coming off, and I'm like, no. So I'm trying to like move him like as close to the middle as possible. But the other thing is, because he's so cute and he loves to wave at people will come over and talk. So you mentioned talking to people, slowing you down. Yeah, so sometimes my son slows me down just because he's so cute, but it's worth it because then I get to work and spend time
Well,
with my
just
family, which
wait
is
until he
amazing.
starts going into like the clothing racks,
Oh, like running in between them, and
like
stuff.
hiding in there, and you're like, maybe your son won't do that, but for me, that was the time killer.
Oh, I believe it.
Because real quick, I'm looking at stuff and like seriously, like 30 seconds, and he's gone. I'm like, oh, he's in that clothing rack right there.
Yeah,
It would drive me crazy.
It's crazy how fast they can move and the places they can get into too. Like we were at the airport. Took him on his first flight. It was actually his second flight, but taking a 19-month-old on an airplane is intense, right?
Okay.
But we were in the airport waiting for our flight, and 2 seconds he dropped down onto the ground and started crawling underneath the benches. And he was able to like keep crawling underneath them, and we couldn't find him because he's like crawling underneath people's feet. And then he like pops out between these people's like legs and just like looks up and smiles at them and waves. And I'm like, sorry, like trying to rush to the other side where he's at. Yeah. So I can only imagine once he's running around a thrift store, the kind of mischief he's going to get into. But man, it's so worth it, right?
But
like,
you'll be known. Like you'll walk in, it's like, hey, it's Mike, the reseller guy with the kid.
The guy with the kid. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Kids really help you like talk to other people, especially if they have kids too. Because I'm a little more introverted and I have no problem talking with people that I know well.
Okay.
But if it's just strangers, I typically don't do like tons of small talk and stuff. But man, let me tell you, kids they open up those doors. So I'm kind of excited to make more connections. I don't want to say using my son, but like allowing the opportunities that are being provided by my son.
I always say the end game's the same, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
What I want to know is if I did tell the same story, why didn't Mike stop me? That's all I want to know.
Oh,
I just want to know.
I don't think
was it a good podcast?
I don't think you have the opportunity to talk enough on the podcast. So.
Oh, thanks. All right. Hey, let's talk about Posh real quick though. How's Posh been for you?
Posh is, I've come to conclude, it's just like anything, just like eBay. You get out of it what you put into it, right? And I see lots of people that I follow on Instagram and that I see very successful with Posh, and I believe it because when we're putting time and energy and effort into Posh, it is very successful. It's just so limited as far as we haven't gone like the home goods route or hard goods on Posh yet. We're still doing
the home goods route.
Like non-clothing items.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So, maybe if we did that, we'd be a little bit more interested. But I would say probably 75% of our inventory is not clothing. And so it's a little bit easier to kind of be eBay focused because so much more of our inventory is there. But, we still do pretty okay on Poshmark. And we just recently did some sourcing at some big box stores and kind of bought in bulk on some items. So hopefully those do well on Poshmark. I think, because there's certain things we buy and we just know it's like this will sell on Posh, this will sell on eBay. You kind of just get the feel for it. And so that actually opens up your opportunities when you're outsourcing to say like, hey, I might not normally pick this up, but if you're selling on Posh, it's like, oh, but this will sell on Posh.
Okay. All right.
What about you? How's Posh going for you? No sales?
No, I'm done. And obviously I should give it more of a try, but eBay has been so good. Like I don't.
So all 5 items that you have on your Posh store,
the grass isn't greener. It's just not greener.
It's unbelievable how like you just would think if you post 5 things that like you'd become a millionaire overnight. Right?
Okay, I get it. Like yes, I got 10 items, none of them have sold, but I gotta tell you, like eBay's been so good, right? It's kind of like eBay's like the good spouse, right? Always good to me. Takes care of me. Like, there's no need for me to, look or venture anywhere else. eBay's just that good to me.
So are you equating Poshmark to the mistress? Is that what this is? Like,
well, I don't know. I kind of feel a loyalty to eBay. Huh. It's one of those things where eBay was so good.
Who's Amazon in this situation? It's getting weird.
What is Amazon? I would say Amazon's like the in-laws.
The in-laws.
Yeah, like you need them, but you really don't want to need them. Right?
So like in-laws that you're dependent on, like they're helping pay some of the bills.
Yeah. Kind of like, you kind of like.
But they remind you of it.
That's kind of how I feel about Amazon. I know for some of you, like Amazon's your one and only and you forsake all others. But for me, I don't know. I kind of like, I do Amazon because I got bills to pay and I got things to do. But I will tell you, I am not a robot. Like I don't like scan. I mean, again, Q4, I love it. But when it's non-Q4, like going out there and scanning and doing research on OA and putting together boxes, ship out, like none of that like intrigues me.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too, is I think it's more scalable. I think that there's obviously a lot of money to be made there, but it's kind of like, I don't want to say factory work. It's like you're working in a warehouse, right? And
it is. Half the time it is.
And I think there's still
unless you pay somebody or you have a prep center.
Right. And I still think there's the element of treasure hunting to an extent. I remember last year, Q4. I mean, you get an adrenaline rush when it's like you're looking for that hot toy.
Yep,
and you're driving from store to store and you get the ones they have. And then like, so there's still some excitement there, to an extent. But I feel like when you're selling on eBay, it's more of, and maybe this is just our style of selling, so we're biased to this, but there's
validation.
It's a little bit more of like the Wild West, and it's like you're treasure hunting, and there's like you got such an eclectic collection of items. I would say, other than a few things that I buy in bulk for like Poshmark, most of the stuff that's on eBay, it's like one-ofs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like buying 10 or 15 of the same thing, so there's always just fresh new items. It's always interesting. I kind of feel like I'm like a thrift store as opposed to a big box store, right?
Agreed.
And, maybe that's just our style of selling, because again, I know that there are people who sell on eBay, and their primary way of selling on eBay is they have like one or two items that they sell, and they have, they move thousands of them a month, right? And so it's more like selling on Amazon. That's just the platform they're using. But, I kind of like the treasure hunting aspect that we
I agree.
do.
I think that's who we are. I just think that's how we roll. All right. So I think we covered all our updates. So I wish we had more. Hopefully next time Mike and I source again, we'll have a better story to tell. And we won't tell the same story twice. There we go.
That'd be good.
That'd be good. Okay, some random stories. Anything random happen to you?
So I don't know how random this is.
I don't know if we should call this random story. It should be like
story time.
Circle time. We'll call it something.
So I'm going to call this story The Tale of Two Legos.
Okay.
I mean, since we're doing it as like a story.
All right. Sure.
So I went to one house and they mentioned and let me know if I've told this story. I don't think I have.
See, now I'm on edge. See, here's what happens. We talk off air, and some stuff we don't share on the podcast and some we do. And so now it's getting all muddled because Mike and I are doing a lot of things behind the scenes that, you'll see in the next few weeks, but everything's like blurring together. That's our problem, I think, right now.
Yeah, that's okay. Unless somebody's binging through them, right? They probably won't mind. It's when you binge through them that it's like you catch all the mistakes or the overlap on stuff.
We make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, well,
But we appreciate you guys being good with that.
So I go to one house where they're selling Legos, right? And
garage sale?
Garage sale, okay. Yes. What else? Right?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe you had like an offer up or something.
It's true. No, so I'm doing garage sales, and this garage sale didn't actually start until I think it was like 8. And so that's always a bummer because some garage sales in the area start at 6, but they're like further away. And so like I'm trying to hit all these garage sales and still be to that one early enough, right?
Okay.
And it said on the list like lots of Legos. And so I'm like, all right, you never know. Sometimes I've bought them before relatively inexpensive at garage sales. So I show up and I'm looking around, and sure enough, I see this huge tote of Legos, right? Like one of the totes, like Costco tote, like
those are big, like the yellow and black totes.
Yeah, like
wow, that's huge.
It's a big tote.
Okay,
and so I'm like asking her, I'm like, so how much? And she's like $1 a bag, right? And so I'm like,
so like she had like Ziploc bags or something.
Ziploc bags, but they were like like the snack size Ziploc bags.
Okay,
but she's like, but no picking through them. You just have to like put them back. Okay. And I'm like, what if I just bought them all, right? I pulled what if I just buy the whole
You told
tote?
some Lego story a couple of weeks ago, but I don't think it's this one.
Oh, I hope not. So, all right. And I asked her like, can I, how much if I buy this whole box? And she's like, 300. And it was just too much, right? Like, honestly, that's probably about what I'd make, maybe a little bit more on, but then I'd have to go through the process of putting them in boxes, taking the
if you sold them by the lot, was what you're saying?
Yeah,
in lots. Okay.
So there wasn't money, not enough money to make it worthwhile, right? Like not to invest $300, and like she wouldn't budge, right? It was like not moving beyond that. And then same thing with like some really like obscure board game pieces that she had of like an out of print set, and she wouldn't budge on those. Then I go to another house and they had Legos too, right?
Okay.
This time is like 3 of the sets that you can get like at Target or Walmart that are like $15 each.
Okay.
Like with the boxes still, but like the pieces are all jumbled up together. Some, you know, the boy ones,
so you
some
didn't,
the girl ones.
You didn't move on the first
I didn't
house.
move on it. No.
Okay. You didn't tell the story.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it was they wanted way too much for
Yeah.
them. But it was like she knew her prices, right? Like she could probably get that much if she finds the right
Did
person.
you throw the line? You should throw the line. Hey, you should sell these on eBay.
Nah, I should.
I'm telling you, that's a negotiation line. It really is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and just explain how hard it is. Like I sell on eBay, and this is how much time it's going to take.
Yeah, kind of like it starts like it goes, hey, you should really sell these on eBay. And then they'll go, yeah, it's a good idea. I go, but then I drop the, yeah, but you know what? Right? Think about it. It's going to take this and this and this and this. I go, but I'll take care of it now. You don't even have to worry about it. It's worked multiple times for me.
I believe it'll work, but then there's still those people who think they should get the eBay price just for the random person who walks up to the garage sale. You know, that's kind of what they're hoping.
Well, what I do, this is my new thing now. If somebody says, no, I'm going to sell on eBay, I'm like, hey, here's my business card. If you need help selling it, let me know.
Nice.
Right. And I've had it where, you know, they refuse. They see it. And cause I'm kind of if somebody hit me up and said, hey, how do I do this listing, blah, blah, I'd give them like, 30 seconds of my time.
Or you could say, here's this podcast you can listen to. It's called PRS Podcast. Start at episode 1. There's like 56 episodes.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Why not, man?
No,
you could change somebody's life like that.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, like they might not realize they're a reseller, and then they're like, I can do this.
And then any opportunity you have from getting anything from that source is gone.
That's true. Yeah.
So anyways, go ahead. Okay. You went to the second house of Legos.
Yeah. So I go to the second house and they didn't have anything else there that was worthwhile. And so I'm like, well, maybe these people are just willing to part with these Legos for like $5, because they're kind of, how much you want for these Legos? I asked. $150.
Wow. So was there an eBay listing or what? Just $150.
So the first house was priced about right, but just way too expensive.
Yeah, retail priced right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's probably what I'd be able to sell that set for. That tote for is $300. The second house, way overpriced and barely anything. Right. So it's just It's interesting. I think it's just a reminder.
150.
It's just a reminder that people don't always know how to value their items, right? Some people way overvalue items. Some people have the right, value on items, but the conditions are wrong, right? Because that matters too. And I think that's what you mentioned when you talk about like you should sell this on eBay when you try and use different tactics to negotiate is, look, you're right. This is worth what you're saying you want for it. But the reality is you're probably not going to get that under these conditions. Right? You might get that 6 months from now if you put it on eBay and you spend the hours doing the work and the pictures and the this and the that. And so there's people like that. And then when you're lucky, there are people who I want to say see the light, right? Like I'm never for taking advantage of people. If somebody,
agreed,
like when you hear those stories, because sometimes when I tell people I resell, you go to garage sales and you buy stuff, in their mind, they think of the stories they've heard of like the people who go to old ladies who have like a really nice car that their husband had before he went to the war, and it's just been sitting there and they don't know what it's worth. And someone's like, I'll give you $100 for that. And it's like a really, like, to me, like scamming somebody who doesn't know better, who you're intentionally trying to like.
Well, I think there's two sides to that. I don't know if scam is the right word. I would say if they're watching the podcast, I'm holding up my phone and looking at eBay. But, this device, to me, has leveled the playing field. I would say 12 years ago, if you approached somebody and they didn't know the value of it and, you knew you could make, $10,000, let's say, off a $100 purchase, I don't think there's anything unethical, but it's maybe an issue of appropriateness. But now that everyone has access to information, I'm not sure the argument works anymore.
Well, and of course we're talking about extremes here, and that's what I mean. Like when people think of extremes, if you go to a 90-year-old individual who has like they're not, I don't know. There's people who
be careful, Mike.
Well, I'm trying to be careful. I'm trying to be realistic because I know my wife's grandma passed away not too long ago.
Okay.
Right? And so we were over there, and her grandpa is like 95, 96 years old.
No, I get it. Like my father.
Gets phone calls all the time from people, and he's going a little senile, and he's not as sharp as he was, and he's dealing with some dementia, and he gets phone calls all the time from people trying to get credit card numbers.
No, that's wrong. Property. I get it.
And
okay.
so that's what I mean. Like people see the extreme cases where it's like, hey, this person has a car, they don't know what it's worth. I'm gonna go take it from them, or I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like that's what I mean.
There's two sides to it,
right? So that's that level of extreme, I think, is what some people think of when they think of, what we're doing with reselling. I think you're right, though, in the fact that people, because of smartphones, because of time, like we're about ready to have a garage sale, there are items that I have that I know if I was willing to take the time, I spent $300 on this piece of furniture. It's in good condition. I could probably sell it for that if I was willing to wait. I'm just like, I want this out of my house. I'd be willing to take $50 for this thing. Now, I know on the resale market, it's probably worth $300. And if somebody wants to take the time to store it for that long and to deal with, finding a buyer for it, good for them. I'm willing. To me, it's worth the convenience, right? I know they're not getting one over on me when they buy something for less than its actual value, what other people would be willing to spend. Because for me, it's like, I just want it gone. And that's what most people at garage sales are doing, right? They want stuff gone. Now, it's great when you find people who have that level, but man, I can't tell you how many times I go to garage sales and there are people who they've got 3 sets of Legos that are worth, maybe $25 new, and they want $150, right? Like, so you got extremes at every level, and you just have to be consistent to find that time when you find the person with the tote of Legos that you could sell for $300 and they're willing to take $100 for it, right? That's the perfect, like the middle level that you're kind of looking for.
No, agreed. I enjoyed our conversation because it reminds me of this episode of American Pickers. I think early days, they came across this place. The guy was selling like these huge banners of posters. Those of you that watch American Pickers, you might remember. And I think they paid like several hundred, and like these huge banners or posters from the 40s or 50s were worth like $10,000. So they actually went back to the guy and they gave him a cut of their profit. Right. But again, that was several years ago. Right. And I don't know. I get it. Like if my dad's passed away for a while now, but my dad, towards the end, his faculties were all together and people could have very easily swindled him. That definitely would have upset me. Right. But if my dad had all his faculties together and he had access to a cell phone and he could have figured things out, then, if Mike were to come up to him and wheel and deal him, I can't knock Mike for that because the playing field was level. So I think that's a good way to approach it because ultimately, I don't know. To me, the ROI is greater in giving and being kind and, being a part of a community than just being greedy and just taking money.
Yeah. And I think even though the story of the Legos was just kind of something interesting.
We went into a huge, far off trail here.
Because I just thought it was funny. Like the second, it was back-to-back houses, and just such a vast
tale
difference.
Of two Legos.
Yeah, tale of two Legos. But it does raise the question of where's the ethical lines for you? Like, what do you realize? Like, okay, this is what's appropriate. This is what's not appropriate. And, not crossing those lines. Cause I've heard of maybe it was even Gary Vee who made a comment, or somebody who was on Gary Vee's podcast one time. And it was something to the effect of buying stuff at one store and then going and returning it at another store because the prices were higher, And so you hear things like that and it's okay, where do you draw the line?
That's muddy.
This is starting to get unethical, right? Because now you're defrauding people. And so just because there's money to be made somewhere doesn't mean you should always take it. You need to, conduct yourself in a way that is going to make you a decent citizen, to the people around you. And I think ultimately that pays off. Like you said, you make connections, you people know who you are. And you've mentioned before, how many connections you have where somebody's willing to negotiate with you and you don't always go as low as you possibly could go because it's worth it for them to know that hey, you've got this long-term connection, and you're not just trying to swindle and get the best of them.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're all agreed.
Yeah.
So I think our listeners are all agreed.
It's good stuff, man.
If you're not, let us know in the comments. We always want to hear.
Yeah. If you're a vicious reseller, let us know.
Hey, so speaking of our listeners and reselling, so my story is a little bit, I think I shared this a little bit on the podcast, but, or maybe I didn't. Selling on Instagram. Have you sold any items on Instagram?
No, but Facebook Marketplace all the time.
Oh, no. Okay. You had talked about this, but I don't know what it is, but lately it seems I'm getting a lot more people contacting me like, hey, Rolando, I saw you source that. What are you going to do with it? I like it. I want to buy it.
So like the Pure Hustle podcast, Instagram.
Yeah. Which has been it. Have I told you this?
I mean, you mentioned it.
Yeah, but it's been happening more lately, which I don't know. It makes me feel good. And this is why. Number one, it's you always want to, when you sell, at least for me, I love it when I can sell something that means something to someone. You know what I'm saying? And so, I've had a few items that people have contacted me directly. And I will tell you, though, if you do contact us, we're not going to give you like a discount, right? Because we're still trying to make money and it's still a business to us. But
look it up. It's on eBay.
Well, I know. Well, that's what for me, it's like, hey, if there's something you like and there's something that, you really are interested in, like definitely, contact us and we can make a deal. But it's been interesting to me because it made me think about eBay and Amazon and everything where, it would be really hard to just sell on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think sometimes we forget about like how eBay, eBay with the issues we deal with sometimes, or Amazon or Posh, like the marketing and, the network and the worldwide ability and all these things that are tied into it, definitely make this happen for us. Right. But then when you get those, the ability to sell on Instagram, it's really nice. So it's been good. So, hey, I just throw that out there for two reasons. Hey, number one, if you see anything Mike and I pick up and you're interested, let us know. I mean, I don't mind. I'd rather have it go to someone that, follows us and listens to the podcast and actually cares about the item. You know what I mean? Like,
so I do have a question though. So does Instagram
do you want to know the process?
Take a fee?
No.
Okay. So then the question would be, you say you're not giving it at a discount, but like you could basically go 10% discount, right?
No, you could. I'm not saying no. The items I've sold, I haven't like full bore eBay price. Well, like, it's been a fair price.
Yeah, and what I'm saying too is that might be one of the benefits of buying from somebody off of Instagram is say like, okay, we can go without that fee, that eBay fee, or
correct,
the Poshmark fee. So there's a little bit more wiggle room as far as pricing goes.
No, it's been nice. I mean, it's been simple, and it's really easy. You do shipping off a pirate ship, which you can create a single label. So that's how I've been doing it when I've been selling on Instagram. Right, because I don't think pirate ship takes a cut. No, as far as I know.
And the crazy thing is with like pirate ship, it's like just think of. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I was listening to podcasts. I even feel like a few weeks ago, and you're still hearing people talk about like stamps.com, right? Like sign up for stamps.com.
People still use stamps.com,
and I'm sure it's a great program, but when you can have access to something that's free and basically does the same thing,
yeah. And what's been nice is that when you create the label on pirate ship, like you can set up like different, like, so we have our Pure Hustle podcast. I have my eBay store on there. Like we have different ways to ship things out to people. And then I could send tracking right away. So it's been nice. And then people, can pay via PayPal or Venmo or whatever way they want. But it's just been awesome because again, we always talk about this, and we haven't talked about this much in the podcast lately, is that we're basically personal shoppers. Right. We find things for people that they couldn't normally find. Right. And so, the items that I've sold on Instagram have been things that were pretty unique. And unless that person had been searching for like a year or two and gone to multiple thrift stores and garage sales, they might not have found those items. So anyways, just wanted to share that.
That's good. Or might not have found it even if they, like sometimes you're not looking for something and you don't know you want it until you have it. You know what I'm saying? Until you see it. So it could even be too, like, because they saw it on Instagram, it's like, that would be amazing. What's the chances I'd get it? But if they were looking for it on eBay, they probably would have found it. But like, you might not know. So that's one of the benefits too of posting things on Instagram, because I see a lot of people that do, right?
Yeah, I struggle with that though.
If you've got unique items though, that people might not realize, like, hey, I didn't know like that I wanted that, but
You know,
now
I
that
want to
see it,
know
I do want that.
if you have a chance and you sell like, because I see a lot of people post stuff on Instagram for sale, and we haven't done it. And I don't think we ever will, because we're about, you know, our main thing is we want to share knowledge through the Instagram and through the podcast. But if you make sales of Instagram, I'm interested, because I see a lot of people do it, and I just wonder if it converts to sales. Obviously, it does if they're consistently doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But that's interesting. So, all right.
It's good stuff.
That's good stuff. Hey, so before we move on, if you haven't had a chance yet and you're watching us on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, that notification button. If you're listening to us to the podcast, jump on over to YouTube. If you're on the podcast and you haven't subscribed to the podcast, hit that subscribe. And hey, reviews, where are we at? Do you know where we're at?
On iTunes, I think we're over 100, so that's awesome.
We are at 108 reviews.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Much.
It means
We
a
really
lot.
appreciate
And
that.
again, these reviews are awesome. Like, they're just so kind. Like, I'm like, okay, that was wow. Like, I'm gonna sleep really well.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons we keep doing what we're doing, right?
Can I read this one real quick? This is the last line. That's pretty awesome. Do you see it? I'm sharing. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm sharing Mike the review.
Nice.
Okay, so I just want to read the last line.
Go for it.
They said, "These are your new brothers from a different mother watching out for you."
There we go.
Nice. I'll take that. Like, that's awesome.
It's like we're family now.
It's like our family. So, anyways, hey, if you haven't a chance, you know, writing a review, it definitely helps, because it puts us higher in the podcast, I guess, algorithm. And if you haven't had a chance on Instagram, we are Pure Soul Podcast. And so please follow us there. We're always dropping knowledge. Some of the knowledge we drop there doesn't end up on the podcast. And sometimes we have announcements. We have a lot going on, especially with the eBay Open. We're going to be doing a lot of social media, a lot of podcasting from eBay Open.
Yeah. And if you're listening to us and you're not on Instagram following us, we're doing like t-shirt giveaways like crazy
that's right
now.
Totally forgot about that.
So, you know, there's some of you, because I don't even think I really had an Instagram until we started this podcast.
I didn't.
So I'm assuming there's probably a handful of our listeners that also are just like, Instagram, right? I'm telling you, even like follow us, that'd be great. But there are so many amazing resellers out there putting out content, just showing amazing stuff. So, you know, come on over to Instagram, give us a follow, see some of the people that we're following and that are commenting on our stuff. And you will be connected to a group of people, a community that is just, it's amazing. It will help you learn so much. Even if you think you know a bunch, even if you know an insane amount, like you will learn so much more. So I would say jump on Instagram, give us a follow, and be amazing.
Yep. And we're also on Twitter, and our Twitter, a lot of good conversations are happening on Twitter. So we're Pure Soulcast on Twitter, and we're on Facebook, Pure Soul Podcast. And I think that's pretty much it. And for the last one, under below in the comment section, or above the comment section, if you want to say thank you in a monetary way, hey, we're always open to that. There's a PayPal link. Thank you to all of you that have helped us out and continue to help us out. Really appreciate it. There's a lot happening with the podcast, and so I think we'll share more next week.
Darren, yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that, buddy. Hey, by the way, though, we do have another podcast dropping this week.
Yeah, Sunday.
Is it Sunday? I thought it was Saturday.
No, drops on Sundays.
Okay. I'm glad we're on the same page on this one. All right. So,
I mean, that's what we advertised, is that it was going to be on Sunday. So I would hope that we would, you know, stick to our word on that.
We said the 14th, right?
Yeah.
And the 14th is Saturday.
What?
I'm just joking. It's Sunday.
Oh, God.
So, hey.
So for those of you who are keeping track, Mike 2, Orlando 0.
Hey, but you know what? You guys don't see the off air when I told Mike, like, hey, we're dropping on the 14th. Like, no, I told him the 21. Remember? You said, oh, it's going to be the 21st.
Hey, there's no recording of that.
That is true. Okay, fine. Believe whatever Mike says. All right. So what are we doing that? What are we dropping on that Sunday?
Yeah, so we've got our level up review. So I'm sure you guys have already heard about it, you know, if you're listening to our podcast. But we are going through the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Every other Sunday, we are going to be doing a level up review where we go through maybe a whole book, maybe part of a book, and kind of giving you some of the takeaways. This episode, you know, I think it was pretty good. We're kind of trying to figure out how this works best. So please listen to it. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you found helpful, what you'd maybe like to see in it. But, you know, whether or not you're a reader, I think there's something you could take from it. Richest Man in Babylon is kind of a finance book. It's talking about like how to save, how to build wealth. And I think that's something that whether or not you're a reseller is going to be useful for you. And then maybe as time goes, we'll be reading, different books that seem different, right? Maybe about philosophy, maybe about finance, maybe about, all of these different things, but we'll connect it back to how do you use this to improve who you are, better yourself, better your business, better your family, all of these things, because really that's what Peerless Podcast is about, right? Like,
agreed.
It's 99% reselling and 100% being a real person, right? And that involves, growth. So,
and you'll also get to see a different side of Mike and Orlando on that podcast.
Oh man, we fought.
I don't know if we fought. It got a little intense.
It got heated.
We'll see what happens.
Heated. Yeah. So if you want to hear Mike and Orlando get a little bit upset.
If you want to hear Mike just straight out, just like call me out, that's the podcast.
Yeah, I might have been a little too intense.
It's all good. Remember they called you Angry Mike at some point? Do you remember that point in time? Okay. Anyways, all right. Hey, let's get to current topics. There's a lot going on. Well, there's a lot going on, but there's not a lot going on. So Prime Day is happening, but let's talk about. Okay, so we all know what Prime Day is. I don't know how you cannot know what Prime Day is, right? I've seen Prime Day advertising everywhere. Do you find that to be true?
I don't watch TV. I don't have TV, but I do subscribe to CBS All Access because there's a couple shows on there that we watch. And so we have the subscription that has commercials. And we recently started watching a couple shows. And sure enough, I'd say like every fourth commercial is about Prime Day. So I don't even watch things with commercials, and I'm seeing commercials.
I know. So every Amazon package on the tape, it says the date to Prime Day, July 15, 16. Every, I watch YouTube with my kids. It's on there. I went to watch Spider-Man the other day, and it was before the previews. Whoever's on their marketing team is everywhere.
They're trying to turn it into a holiday.
Yeah,
guys, Prime Day's coming.
I know. It's a big deal. Now, here's the other interesting thing. Do you know what eBay is doing to counter Prime Day?
eBay Day.
No, it's Amazon. It's a crash day.
Crash day.
Yeah. So remember how Amazon crashed last year on Prime Day? So they're counting on that. If Amazon crashes, they are offering discounts for Amazon crashing. I'm serious.
It's pretty funny.
It's true. And it's
kind of funny. It's kind of messed up.
Well, yeah, but it's a great story.
But I feel like Amazon, I almost feel like that's a safe bet for eBay. They get some publicity from it because that's a funny story. Whoever thought of that, you're a genius. That's great. But the chances, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like Amazon crashing last Prime Day was probably the talk of the business for a long time. And I bet you they have spent so much money and put so many resources into making sure that does not happen again. Especially if they're advertising this hard, you better believe they bought extra servers just to turn on for Prime Day.
No, I agree. So here's what's funny. One of the news stories that cracked me up is they surveyed employees at the two places. So this is on CNET.com. And they said, Amazon will crash on Prime Day. 60% of surveyed eBay employees say, according to the Blind app.
A little biased.
Okay, and then it said 29% of Amazon employees. I'm like, who are these people? But here's the thing. I do believe that day, I think what's happening is, when, I forget the quote. I don't have a quote of the week, but, something rises, all ships rise at the same time.
Rising tide.
Okay, rising tide raises all ships, right? That was terrible of me. Okay. I think the same thing may be true now, with Amazon Prime Day. Let's say, so eBay is offering discounts, Target's offering discounts, Walmart is offering discounts on that day.
Oh yeah, here's the bad part with Prime Day. It's a good idea for Amazon to build a bunch of people there, but if they create another Black Friday, then every other retail business is going to jump on it, and they're just going to create another Black Friday, right? Where people want to shop, and if every single online e-commerce business is offering discounts, and Amazon is the only one advertising for it, big time pushing it. That's a big deal.
But so what I'm going to say is, and I could be wrong completely because I know I'm wrong a lot on the podcast. Thank you for letting me know. But I really think you may have an uptick in eBay sales that day, right? Because, if more people are just hey, let's go shopping, right? And I get it. It's not going to be new items like on Amazon. And let's say it does crash. And, it's kind of one of those things we talked about loss leaders and how Black Friday Target doesn't really care about losing money on those like special discount items. They want the other items that you picked up.
Right.
That may happen. Right. I don't know. Because some people have told me like we don't make any more money on Prime Day than any other day. Some other people have told me, oh yeah, Orlando, it's weird, but like we don't even do lightning deals or any of that. But we have a huge like swell in sales, and I do too on Prime Day. So I don't know. It's just something to think about because maybe this is Black Friday Part 2.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, how many more shopping days, how many more shopping holidays do we need as a culture? Like, I mean, it's great if you're able to, profit off of it, but man, like, really? Like, let's buy more stuff. But we need another day to buy more stuff.
But if the economy continues to boom, like, it's going to happen.
But, I mean, it's going to happen. But realistically, going back to, and you've got to listen to the episode that's going to drop on Sunday, should you spend it? Or as the economy's booming, is that the time that people should be putting money away and saving?
Yeah, no, I agree. But you build that capital to buy stuff to sell when things are prime.
If you're a reseller. But if you're just this
is a reseller podcast.
What's a reseller? I'm just mean like as a culture, though, it just amazes me that like, we need another excuse to go crazy shopping.
I'm all good with that. Hey,
and they made it like not as far away, but pretty much as far away from Christmas as they can to like,
Yeah,
like,
it's right in the middle. It's like it literally is the middle of the year.
Genius.
I think it's genius. So if you haven't had a chance, I still think you can send in stuff to Amazon, FBA, and it'll still sell. Like even though when this drops, it's going to be, what is it? What's today? July 9? It's going to be July 10. So you might have 5 days, but I do find stuff that I send to California, like checks in within a couple of days. And, eBay, you can list until the night before and your items will be up. So just something to think about. So along with that, I don't know what it is, but the news, like literally you can Google store closing with an S, not clothing. And there was always news stories about store closings. And the latest one was from Yahoo. And it was talking about like, not that there was a store apocalypse, but that there's so many more closures happening. And I posted, the reason I want to bring this up, I posted this on Instagram and I said, hey, there's more opportunity. Now's the time.
Yeah. And that was maybe a little insensitive.
Yeah, okay, but I cleared it up though.
You cleared it up. And I think, and I'll jump in on that because I think that you have to look at it from both sides and recognize that there's going to be passions and enthusiasm on both sides of the argument. And it's true. Nobody wants to see anybody lose their job.
Agreed.
Right? Like
100%,
nobody
100%.
wants to see employees losing their job. Nobody wants to see small mom and pop owners losing, businesses. But realistically, we also have to recognize that in the market economy that we have, that there's going to be changes. And there's always changes. And when you look back, like it's hard to look back and like feel bad for, Blockbuster, right? Or to feel bad for, companies where it's like, you could have looked at that and said like, man, when Netflix came out and it destroyed Blockbuster, it was the end of like the movie industry. But what really happened is it made it more easier for people to get movies. It was actually better for the mass majority of people. And it brought more money into the movie industry and more people got employed. So for every handful of people that end up losing their jobs through it, and it is tragic, right? Like it's terrible when that happens, but also the economy rises and more people are employed and it just, everything shifts. And so one of the things I think when businesses like that close, part of it is not being able to keep up with changing times. And you have to be able to adapt and change and move with the changing times. And, some businesses just by the very nature of their business can't. Other businesses have to change their whole model of doing things. But just because mom and pop stores are closing and just because even big stores like Toys R Us close doesn't mean that there's fewer jobs in the market. It doesn't mean that the total amount of money that households are making is less. In fact, it typically goes up. And not only does that the average income raise across the board, but things get cheaper, right? Because businesses, Amazon can get in bulk what a mom and pop shop can't. And so you are able to, your money now has more buying power. You can buy more things with it. So is it tragic? Yes. But it's just an evolving machine.
But I think this article had it right. So this is from Yahoo Finance, store closures coming in 2019, but don't call it a retail apocalypse because obviously e-commerce. But they said digital retailers have exposed how poorly, thank you, Mike. Mike just moved the microphone so you can hear me better. Have exposed how poorly many brick and mortar chains are run, forcing a number of them to close stores or even go bankrupt. That's not happening because consumers have chosen digital over physical. Instead, shoppers have choice and they can now more easily opt out of shopping of brick and mortar chains that do a bad job. It's exactly what you said. And I agree. It's the fact that these store closures, we can blame Amazon and we can blame e-commerce, but ultimately it's, again, I keep saying this, the playing field is level. Like the cell phone, the smartphone has changed it because I can go inside a Toys R Us or I could have gone to any store. And if I find something cheaper on my phone, I'm not going to buy from them. Right. And so ultimately, I don't believe it's wrong to go like, hey, these stores are closed. Now, there's a humanity behind it, which we just talked about. Like, I feel terrible for all those people. I had close friends that have lost jobs from store closures. But the fact is they're going to close anyways. And so it does two things. It reflects, number one, on the opportunities that are available to all of us as resellers, right? Showing that now people are more going to the digital landscape to buy. And it also provides a sourcing opportunity. So I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm like, okay, this is good. Like in the sense that people are going to have to up their game if they want to maintain their businesses. And we're all going to have to maintain our game to continue our e-commerce.
And it's the changing market. I mean, obviously the easy ones to look at, it's like groceries, right? Like when you live in a town where there's a small grocery store and it's the only grocery store in the town, they oftentimes have really high prices, and it's not because they're just trying to gouge people, but their buying power is less. They can only buy so many items at a time. It costs just as much.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a personal example of that.
Well, okay. I mean,
in my town, the town where I'm at, like,
yeah, there was
one store that dominated. And they literally had double the prices. And when big box showed up, it wasn't even a big box. A chain store showed up. That store's gone.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly, and that's what I'm saying is when another company comes in, there's more competition. Yeah, it does often mean something closes, but it also means that you can get your groceries at half the price you were getting them at, right? So is it sad that several people lost their jobs? Yes, but those people agree. Now can also buy groceries for much less. And there's a new place that's, so it just shifts and everything changes. And an example I have is when I was young, I kind of got into the hustle game early. When I was 11 years old, I worked at there's like a comic book shop, but they didn't really sell very many comic books. It's mostly like sporting goods and like really unique, like baseball and basketball cards and stuff like that. And the owner of the shop wanted to get into Pokemon, right? And so he's like, I don't know anything about selling Pokemon. And he knew my mom, and he's like, you've got a little kid that like loves Pokemon. So how about he helps me on Saturdays, like sell Pokemon cards.
Interesting.
Right. And so I did that for a long time, for like probably a whole year. I helped him sell Pokemon cards on Saturdays and Sundays at his store. And his store, year after year after year, was getting fewer and fewer customers, fewer and fewer sales, and it was going under. And, it's a mom and pop shop, and you feel bad for the guy. And his daughter at the time was in college and was like, Dad, all of these really cool signed autograph cards, all this stuff, let me open up an eBay store for you. Saved his business. Now, nice. 75% of his sales, he still has his storefront. He still sells. He does all kinds of stuff now there. That's awesome. He in fact, the games have increased. Now he has like tournaments and stuff there for different games, but 75% of his income is coming from eBay store.
That's awesome.
Right. So you just have to be willing to evolve, and some companies can't and some do. And so, yeah, we just want to make sure that none of our listeners think that like we're like our hearts don't break for people who are hurting. Right?
No,
like
they do. Like I'll say this. At Toys R Us, it was sad for me because the local Toys R Us, I knew those people. Like I would see them, constantly, especially in Q4, and you develop friendships with people. And then when they, it's sad because one person I know, it's so terrible that it's happened. They had to leave his Toys R Us closed, and then went to an Office Depot, and then that Office Depot closed. And it's just one of those things. It's a reality. It's humanity. So I think we're pretty clear about that. Good. So, all right, this is a crazy thing here. Amazon. So there's a lower court ruling. Doesn't mean much, but if it goes Supreme Court, it might. Where now Amazon could be held liable for a third-party product that injures somebody or something happens with it.
So Amazon would be, or the third-party seller?
No, Amazon would be. So before, I think mainly it would be the person selling it. So what happened was somebody had a dog leash, and the dog leash broke, and it's smacked the person in the face, and they became permanently blind in their left eye. And it was an FBA seller. So then the court ruled at Amazon. So the only reason I want to bring this up is a few things to be aware about. Number one, I'm not selling anything. I'm not recommending. Just something to think about. There is some reseller insurance out there, and it may be time, right? I know Amazon requires you to have it. They don't check on you, but they do require it. So, and I know in a future podcast, like way down the road, there is someone we'll bring on board for an interview that does something with reselling insurance. The other part of it is, and I see this all the time, and some of you may disagree, I'm always super careful about what I send into Amazon.
Yeah, but I think you're right to be cautious about certain items, right? Like you're careful about not sending, health products. You're careful about not sending baby products, things like that. But, I don't think I would have thought twice about a dog leash.
No, neither have I. And here's the thing. I had like 20 dog leashes. I got at a garage sale. I paid, I think, like $10 for the box. I sold each of them for like $30 to $40 each. But I was scared. Number one, I was scared because a few years ago, I had an intellectual property claim against it. The company actually bought the dog leash that I had on FBA, claimed it was fake, and I ended up in this whole fiasco with it. The other part of it was, what if that dog leash, like something happens to the dog? Because, right, I mean, it's, dogs aren't, pets are important, right? And so I sent them in grudgingly. They all sold, and I made a profit. But yeah, just gotta be careful. I know some of you sell like shampoo and you do, facial cream and you do all this. I just, just something to be careful about, because I think about hair. Like, hair's a big deal to people. If you send in something that ruins somebody's hair, they might come after you. So I don't know. Okay.
I could see that.
Think we covered enough on that one?
That's good.
All right. Hey, have you been sending? Oh, that's right. You have your UPS connection, but I just want to share this. I shared this on Instagram. I'm not sure what's happening, and we shared this in our podcast with the ship tips part 2, I think, right? Where like, do you have you do UPS mainly, right? Anything big, you don't do any FedEx?
No.
Okay. So I will say, for me, from now on, I don't do any UPS as far as my choices. I go FedEx, because once you go UPS, you can't get out of it. And for me, UPS is not offering a discount through the eBay store. But if you do paypal.com/shipping and you sign up, you get a discount from UPS. It's a big deal. I just sent a pair of speakers for $160 from here to Rhode Island. It cost me $160, and I did lose $66 in shipping. I shared that in an IG story a little bit ago. But I would have been paying $200 if it wasn't for that discount. So just something to think about on that one. Got a question for you. Is local pickup worth it to you? Like, do you ever get messages on eBay like, hey, are you willing to sell this locally?
No, actually, I've never gotten that on
really?
eBay.
Really? Not once?
Never on eBay. And I saw your Instagram story on it. I love the local game on other things for sure.
Okay.
But typically, if it's something...
Do you find you're losing time, though, when you do a local game?
No, because I only do local on items that it's worth it, right?
Okay.
So if it's an item, it's a big item, I know it's going to cost a lot to ship, but I know there's like $200 or $300 profit margin in it for me. I'm going to do it, right? Like I bought a refrigerator, like a little mini fridge. That was kind of cool a while back for super cheap, and I sold it for quite a bit of money. And that was one of those things where it's like worth it local pickup. I'm never going to ship that. I probably could have, but I did on a Bob stroller. I did local pickup, right? Not on eBay, but whether it's Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or OfferUp. So for me, if I'm posting it on eBay, I've already in my mind decided it's probably not worth the hassle of my time to sell it local.
Okay.
Because if it was going to be difficult to ship, or there was a big enough profit margin and I didn't want to deal with eBay fees or whatever it was, I probably would have already posted it local.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm finding lately I've had a couple local sales that were good via eBay, but I'm finding that lately my anything local, like, and again, if you do anything on eBay, it must stay on eBay. So if somebody says, hey, I want to do a local pickup instead of doing the shipping, that's fine, but they have to buy it. They have to do the transaction has to go through eBay.
I'll give you an example. I lied earlier. I totally forgot.
You lied?
Yeah, well, not intentionally. A couple of weeks ago,
I don't think you call that a lie.
Yeah, I was
misspoke.
I answered incorrectly. A couple of weeks ago, somebody did message me and say, "Hey, I'm in the San Diego area. Is this item on Craigslist?" Through the eBay message.
Ooh, you gotta be super careful, man.
Yeah, because you can't answer. Like, I'm not going to say like, yeah, buy it on. I would never do that on the eBay platform. I never do that to eBay because then you're using eBay to sell locally and not give eBay their cut, right?
And eBay will suspend.
Well, yeah, and
it's a big deal,
as they should, because you're like we've mentioned, is the service they're providing is they're reaching a wide audience, they're doing all these things. They deserve their cut that we have agreed to. Say like, I'm going to list this on your platform, and if it sells, you deserve this much of it. So if you're going around that, yeah. Now, if it sells on Craigslist on its own, well, that's fine because Craigslist did the work on it.
Agree. It's like the Instagram sales. So all those Instagram sales I've had have been before I ever listed the item. If I had it listed, I don't know if I...
No, I think that's fine because they found it on Instagram. Now, if they found it on eBay and asked if they could buy it another way.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So, but if they found it on Instagram, then eBay wasn't the one that did the work to connect you with that buyer.
Agreed.
So if eBay does the work to connect you with the buyer, I say they deserve their cut. If another platform connected you with that buyer, then they get their cut or no cut if it's a platform that doesn't take one like Craigslist.
So anyways, I just for me, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to do any more local pickup.
How would you answer that?
Which one?
If somebody said, "Is this on Craigslist?"
I wouldn't.
Would you?
I wouldn't even answer it.
You just leave it?
I would just mark as answered, and that's it. I wouldn't touch it. Or you could say, no, you could answer it. You could say, no, you could say, well, it's listed here on eBay because I'm planning on selling it on eBay, and just see what they say.
Now, would eBay, and again, I'm not trying to like...
I'm being a little sarcastic, like I would ignore it. I probably would reply, but I would steer clear of giving any insinuation that it's going to be...
That it's listed somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, Craigslist Center actually had a video on this. I don't know if you saw it. It was like a year ago. He got suspended. All he did was there's a guy that said, "Hey, I want to check out an item. I want to do local pickup," and Pete put the address on there of like, "Hey, yeah, come by." And then that was before the transaction went through, and eBay thought that he was trying to sell outside of eBay.
So are they like hawking that? Like they're looking for that?
I'm sure there's some algorithm that catches things.
It reminds me of terrible movie, I'm sure, but I think it was 40-Year-Old Virgin. Is that the movie with the eBay scene?
I don't know. I saw that like maybe 12 years ago.
There's this scene, and I just remember this scene, and maybe we've talked about it before, where somebody was at an eBay store. It was like a storefront where somebody was like keeping all their eBay stuff. And they found a pair of shoes that had fish in the like high heel part of the shoe or in the platform part of the shoe. And the person was like, "I really like these shoes. I want to buy them." And they're like, "All right, well, they're on eBay. You can buy them on eBay." And, "No, I want to give you the money right now, and I want to buy them right now." Like, that's not how this works. But I'm here right now with the shoes, and I want to give you money, and I want to take the shoes. And it's like, no, this is an eBay store. You have to pay on eBay. It's like this whole funny like back and forth skit, but that's kind of what that reminds me of.
But in that case, it'd be within the guidelines.
Right.
Because unless the algorithm can like pick up voices, I think you're good. So that would be interesting. All right. Hey, I just want to share one more thing and move on to, by the way, we're not doing Hustles of the Week.
We're not going to do Hustles of the Week?
No sound effects either.
Oh, man.
But this is why. Now, do you know why? You know why?
I know why.
I'm trying to make this conversational, so I'm not talking a lot.
So the reason we're not doing the Hustle of the Week today is because we're going to be moving it to our other Wednesday episode, right? So if you
themed episode.
Yeah, if you kind of follow along with us, we kind of have this, what we call the update episode, where we do the BOLOs, what's going on in the world of reselling, catching up, some, our crazy stories. And then the next week we have the themed episode, which is, a little bit more specific, whether it's about shipping or whether it's about Q4 or whether it's about sourcing, like a little bit more focused. We decided to move Hustle of the Week there just to kind of even out the amount of time that we're spending on each episode and, kind of spread the love as far as that goes. And also, because sometimes those themed episodes are a little bit more applicable to some people rather than others. So we want to give you something you could still listen to, even if you're like, oh, I don't do Poshmark, and that's a Poshmark episode, at least you can tune in and still listen to,
Hustle of the week.
Awesome hustle of the week.
So there we go. All right. So, hey, so anyways, appreciate it. So again, we're doing 2 episodes a week, and one of the reasons why is so we can share more information. Okay. So I got a question for you. So let's say you sell an item.
Okay. That's always good.
And it's gone. You can't find it. What do you do?
Reevaluate my career choice.
Okay. Well, okay. We're going to have to go extra. All right. So let's say you did everything. Let's say you thought about drop shipping it to the person. You can't find it anywhere. It's not something you can immediately source. So you have 2 options. You can A, cancel the order, or B, like send them a message and go, hey, I'm sorry, this is unavailable. Would you like to cancel the transaction?
Okay, so with the situation, and maybe not like it's gone, but I did have, and I mentioned back early episode, very first Poshmark sale we ever had was a backpack.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It was a brand new backpack, and when we took it out of the tote that it was in, the handle strap was broken. Now, must have been broken when we bought it from the store, because we bought like 6 backpacks at one time and we just didn't notice, and it was like, oh my goodness, right? Like, this is broken, like it's our first sale. And so we messaged the person, we're like, we are so sorry, like this handle strap is broken. We're gonna go ahead and cancel this item. Or like if you still want it, we'll give you a discounted price, but like we're really, really sorry about this. And the person was fine with it. And we've had a couple of things. A pair of ski boots sold, and when I took them down from the rafters, they were cracked, like just shattered.
It's the worst.
So it just happened over storage. Like they must have been ready to crack, and a couple of heat and cold cycles did it. And so I had to message the person and say like, these shoes are no longer safe. I'm sorry. Right.
But let's say that person doesn't get back to you.
Ooh, if they don't get back to me.
Like it's been 24 hours. What are you going to do?
I would send the message. I'd send a couple of messages, and then I think I'd cancel the order and refund them. I think that's probably what I would do.
Okay. Let's say, how long are you willing to wait for that person to get back to you?
Probably a couple of days.
Okay. So I just want to share my experiences with this. I don't know why, but this has happened 3 times in the last 2 months. And yes, I do have an inventory system if you're wondering, okay?
Sorry if I insulted you by saying you should reevaluate your career choice.
No. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I swore that like this item was in stock, and I looked and it's gone. So and we'll talk about this more. We actually have our next theme episode is dealing with customer issues. But I wanted to share this now just to be helpful. So for this last time, what I noticed is it's a bigger ding if you do cancel transaction, because it gives you a defect mark. If you do late shipment, it's a lesser ding. Right. So, and it depends how many sales you have. So they break down the percentages. But what I've been, the last 2-3 times I did this, the first time I messaged the person, never heard back from them. So I had no choice but to cancel. The second time I messaged the person got back to me right away, canceled, easy. And you don't just say, hey, I need to cancel. You ask them, would you like to cancel this? So then when you hit the little drop-down menu, you can hit buyer requested to cancel the order, so it doesn't, go against your metrics. The third time, I waited, and I looked at the metrics, and I said, you know what? If this person, doesn't get back to me for a while, and it shows late shipment, it's all good. Because even if I get that late shipment thing, I can get several of those before I lose my top-rated seller. With the canceled order, it's probably like less than half of those, and I'm going to end up losing TRS. So just something to think about. It's better to get that late shipment, because eventually, right, if the person does get back to you, you cancel it, there is no late shipment. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's better to be patient and wait. I know it sucks because, and you're just, tense, and you want it to be over with. And sometimes, I know for me, I go, I wonder if the algorithm isn't providing sales because I have this item I haven't shipped out yet. You laugh. I'm telling you, I think the algorithm is real. I think it looks at all that. So anyways, just wanted to share that.
Yeah, because I can't imagine, like, I could see that being like individual seller, like, messing up on an item. But like, there's no way like a major corporation would be able to do that with a lot of items, right?
Oh, yeah. Do you know Reebok? I think they have like over 10,000 negative feedbacks. Like it's, I want to look it up right now, but
that's not going to affect them at all.
No, but
it would destroy.
But they did it in a back way, and they're getting away with it.
Well, of course,
as far as I know for right now. But do you know what they're doing? Like
they're just refunding you on PayPal.
Yeah, they're not even like canceling the transaction, which is kind of crazy to me because I'm like, if that was us, like we'd be done. We'd be banned from eBay for life. But at the same time, I get it.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like I can't diss, Reebok provides a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I get it. If I was running eBay, I'd do the same. I'd try to help one of my major suppliers too. So
yeah, you've got to help them out. I just think what would have been nice would have been like a public statement, like, right, like we're going to refund these. There was a glitch in our system, or something went wrong, or maybe it was eBay's fault. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like it was something on the Reebok side. Maybe they could say like, sorry, we had an employee go crazy, right? Like whatever it was, like I think they should have, instead of just giving you the refund, there should have been an apology. Like, we can't sell this to you at this price. Here's a 10% off coupon for, in store. Like, we're really sorry. Like, even just a sorry. Cause I know there's people who are like, sorry doesn't fix, a problem. But at the same time, like we all kind of knew going into it, anybody who bought a bunch of the shoes when they were ridiculous low prices, that this was possibly just too good to be true.
I think I bought like 500 pairs.
Yeah. So the reality is, though, to leave a negative feedback as if like, everybody knew what was going on.
My favorite ones were like discrimination or like, stuff like that. It's like,
yeah, like I think it's just a nice, like, we're really sorry. Just even if it was just like one big public one, right? Like they release like a little thing like, oh my goodness, like we make mistakes too, right? Like one of my favorite things is what was like the Wells Fargo commercials that came out recently that were like a huge apology commercial. And I kind of just hearing that made me think like, oh, like it's a marketing stunt, for them to do that. But the whole like, we lost your trust. Like we've built trust with you. We've been known as a company that is trustworthy, and we lost that trust.
But this is
now we want to build it back.
But this is Reebok. It's not Nike. It's not like, it's Reebok.
Yeah, but still, like you're telling me you wouldn't have been happy with at least like an email, like saying like, sorry, like this was a mess up.
No,
like,
I came into it going, this is probably all gonna get canceled. Like there's just no way, because
I just think like for me, like I would have had to have reached out to the customer and said like, I'm so sorry, this was marked wrong.
Well, we have no options. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I keep saying the backdoor way that they did this, like, obviously you got away with it because they're Reebok.
Well, which is, and again, I think there's something to be said for, I understand that.
Yeah, I do too.
I just think that the other end of the spectrum is they could have at least said sorry.
Agreed. No, you're right. You just want an apology.
Yeah, not even so much that like that makes things right, because I don't even think anything was that wrong in the first place. Where it got wrong was, like you said, doing the refund and not saying sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's where I feel like it was like, now it's getting a little.
I get it. All right. Hey, we got to do some bolos here. Bolos. All right. So what, I got my bolo right here on this paper right here. So what is your bolo? Before I read mine.
So we recently had a holiday here in the States, known as Independence Day.
Okay.
Some people call it 4th of July. And it's interesting because just a couple of days ago, right after that, I sold an item that I've had for a little while for full price. And I was kind of like, it took me a second to put two and two together of why it sold, but I had a patriotic, I guess, like a history-based board game, and it was all about like the founding of America.
Okay.
Right. And it just got me thinking like, oh, of course that would sell on 4th of July, right? Like this is like, if it sold any other time of the year, I'd kind of be like, I wonder who bought this, right? But I didn't even think about that when I bought it. I wasn't like, this is going to sell 4th of July. I just thought like, oh, it's got some decent comps.
Yeah.
So my bolo is, I never think about 4th of July. I never think of Independence Day. I never think of like the holidays that aren't, Christmas or maybe Halloween when you're outsourcing. But there are a lot of big days that people celebrate throughout the year Different cultures have different days, different. So just to think like when you're sourcing, I guess just the BOLO is think of holidays, right? And I don't know of any like off the top of my head besides.
You always get on my case about generic BOLOs.
I do, but this one, okay, so the exact BOLO is look out for patriotic board games near 4th of July.
There you go. That is with the most specific BOLO I think we've ever had. I think you win.
Hey, you didn't want generic. So
there you go.
But yeah, you never know, right? Like there's a lot of holidays. I mean, obviously I've bought some Easter decorations and things like that.
No, I agree. There are some Christmas board games, and I don't want to kill the market because it's still a nice BOLO. It's a retail one, but there's some board game that sell very well around Christmas because they're a Christmas themed board game. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, that's a good BOLO. Can't diss you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So there you go. So maybe even think of that. Like, that just got me thinking of like, okay, what are the other patriotic type items that would sell near 4th of July or Memorial Day or those days where people are celebrating those things. So is that the time to maybe buy, if you can find full flag suits, right? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like the things that you might not normally pick up and go, wait a minute, there's a time of the year where this is a thing.
It's good.
BOLO.
I'm a little concerned about mine now because mine is kind of generic. Yeah. Well, so sometimes I provide generic because it's helpful to the generic. Sometimes I provide generic because I don't have all the answers. So for instance, mine is, and I've shared this, I think this was like our first BOLO ever I shared on the podcast, was unique sport themed items. Remember sharing that?
You've shared this one a few times.
Okay, but because it continues to be true in different venues. Okay, so what I will say is do your research first of all, but unique sport themed items, even if they are worn or damaged, possibly. So I'll give you an example. So sometimes what I've sold lately, I've been able to sell like these sports themed like leather jackets, like let's say from the 80s and 90s. And they're not like starter. They're not like these big name brands, but they're kind of cool looking. They're kind of unique. And again, I'm not a fan of just like, hey, something looks cool, pick it up. But what I've done is I research comps, and sometimes I'll find comps. But what I end up finding out is that people will buy these items and they'll pay top dollar, not because of the brand, but because it's a special memory to that individual, right? So I'll give you an example of two of them. I sold the New York Giants faux leather jacket. This was like a few months ago. It wasn't starter. It wasn't any kind of name brand. And I paid $10 for it. And there was all kinds of marks on it. But it looked like from the 70s. And I paid $10 and I sold it for $100. I sold the Buffalo Bills one. Same thing, not name brand. It was leather. It said Bills really in big letters in the back. And same thing. I think I sold that one for like $120 or something. I recently sold the Pittsburgh Penguins one in the middle of the summer. I did pay up for it. I paid $35 for it. The sleeves, the elastic was all stained. I had to do some cleanup because in the back they had the big Penguins logo and there's junk on it. So I got a sanitizing wipe. That's, I guess, a BOLO tip. And I was able to remove a ton of it. And I sold that within a week. I paid $35 and I sold it for $140 plus shipping.
Nice. And don't sleep on like the minor league stuff too.
Oh no, minor league stuff sells because it's harder to get.
Yeah, I found a Under Armour minor league like shirt, and it was like a decorative shirt. It wasn't even like a workout shirt. For I don't remember the state or the city, but the baseball team, the minor league baseball team, was like the Biscuits. Montgomery is the Montgomery Biscuits, nice. Right? And like I feel like you got to say it like that, like biscuits, right? Okay. And I was like, this thing is never gonna sell. And like after a week of having it up, it sold fast, right? So now I'm like, minor league.
No, I sell minor league stuff all the time. That's another BOLO. I think we shared that BOLO too.
Probably.
I don't know. Eventually we're gonna be recycling BOLOs. Well, I hope that's not the case because there's always different stuff. Always. All right, what are you looking forward to here?
So this Saturday is my garage sale.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, your garage sale.
My garage sale.
Yeah, I'm not going.
Yeah, don't come.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't blame you for not coming. There's actually a couple of things that it's probably like we could put up on eBay and we're just too lazy to do it. But for the most part, it's going to be weird. I'm looking forward to two things. One, getting all the junk out of my house. It's going to make the move easier. And it's been hard to like move around it because like we've had to fill all like, oh, this is going to go to the garage sale. So it goes in the garage and it's taking up space where we usually work and pack and do inventory and all that stuff. So I'm ready to have all of that stuff out. And also I'm kind of interested to see what it's like being on the other end of the negotiation, right? Like I want to see like, does it help as my negotiation skills gone up?
Are you going to be awkwardly quiet when people offer you something?
Or am I just like, I've like I said at the very beginning, like if it's going in our garage sale, we're basically, because we already know. So if you're a reseller, and
fire sale.
Yeah. If you end up showing up at ours, just so you know, like everything that doesn't sell, like when people say like it's going to the Salvation Army afterwards, like 100% that, right? Okay. So one day only, everything's going. So realistically, like I want to get as much money as I can possibly get. But if somebody's offering me $10 and I wanted 30 and they're walking away and I'm like, well, okay, I'll take the 10.
Have you thought about doing a buyout? Like posting an ad and just saying, hey, I'm doing a garage sale, but I'd be willing to sell all of it at one time for the right price?
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, people do that. It might be worth it to you. It'll save you the hassle.
And what do they do with it? And they do a garage sale?
Yeah, no, they resell it.
There's nothing worth reselling.
Yeah, they go to the swamp meet. I mean, you can flip a lot of stuff at the swamp meet that you can't flip on eBay and local. So I don't know, just something to think about.
Yeah, maybe I'll list that.
It won't hurt that.
But yeah, so I'm just interested to see how that goes, and then maybe it'll give me a different respect for the people when I go up and I do some negotiation, just because I'm experiencing it from the other end.
It'd be good.
And what about you? What are you looking forward to?
Listing.
You're looking forward to that?
Yes, man. eBay has been on fire, and I got to tell you, I remember last update, I wanted to list about 90% of what I had, and I keep doing that. Like I haven't been sourcing a lot, and I keep listing, and sales keep coming in, and I'm like, this is addicting. Like I just want to keep listing.
Maybe I need to get on that train, where it gets addicting.
No, it is, because it's weird. It's like I feel like I'm in the Matrix. Like it's been slow. I start listing, sale, offer. Then I don't. I go hang out for a little bit. Start listing, another sale, another offer. Now hasn't been like that all the time, but right now my goal is 90% of my items, because I do want to do some major sourcing in July, both Amazon and eBay, which is going to be hard with eBay Open coming up. But I'm good because eBay Open is going to be awesome. But I don't know. I just feel like what's helped this summer slowdown not be the summer slowdown has been just constant activity. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that.
That's good. I mean, maybe it's like I've run a couple of half marathons and I hate running. Absolutely despise it. It's the worst. I despise listing not as much. Like I like listing more than I like running, but it's not something I'm excited to list. But even running, like you get to a point after you've done it for 4 months, 5 times a week, and you're getting better at it, where if you wake up and you don't run, you kind of just feel off and you're like, I could go for a run right now. Okay. Walk into my car and I'm like, I could actually jog a little bit, if I wanted to.
Oh my goodness.
So maybe if I like just did that with listing, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to just power through it. And I've got a marathon of listing coming up.
It's so relaxing for me. I throw on some Netflix. I watch a series and I'm just like listing, watching. It's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
It's the pictures that I can't stand.
I love taking pictures.
See, I can't stand it. That's why I have a helper.
Weird? Isn't that weird that like there's just differences?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I love taking pictures and my wife doesn't, and she likes listing and I don't. So
that's good.
Everybody's got their own thing.
There you go. All right. Well, hopefully, hey, by the next time we have an update episode, we're going to be doing a huge recap on eBay Open.
It's going to be amazing.
Even though we'll be at eBay Open doing a daily podcast from eBay Open.
Yeah, we got to make sure that we our recap isn't
the same thing.
Yeah, isn't just the same thing.
Yeah,
it needs to be different highlights,
reflections on eBay Open.
And honestly, it's several days that we're there, and there's a lot of things going on. So I firmly believe there's going to be a lot of content that we can provide from that. And our promise to you is we won't bore you with stuff that's not important. If there's not enough content to make another episode, we won't. But I really think that there's going to be a lot to talk about, because we didn't go to eBay Open last year. I didn't even know eBay Open was last year when you mentioned
that. Is true.
Like eBay Open. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool, right? So yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have been able to learn more about it then. And so
we're going to get to fully experience it this time around. Some big things happening. It's going to be fun. All right, hey, with all that being said, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Please.